at the Southgate Hotel, across the street from Madison Square Garden, where Trinidad stops Mayorga in 8 rounds. And with me, I got HBO's own Jim Lampley. What you think about the fight tonight, sir?
Well, it was a sensational show for spectators. It was a sensational performance by a guy who had been away for 2.5 years. In fact, the most overused word in sports is incredible, but it was incredible to me that Tito could come in and be technically better both as a boxer and as a puncher than 3 years ago. After I spent months thinking he was crazy to come straight back to a big fight without some kind of a tune-up, I was wrong. And what an amazing offensive show. He wound up landing 2/3 of his punches in the fight. I don't think I've ever seen a power puncher do that. It was quite remarkable.
What do you think about Mayorga saying he would drop his hands and in fact doing it in the first round?
Well, what Mayorga does, which is, I think, a mind game, he's trying to intimidate his opponent into fighting his fight. You know, it's sort of like, okay, here are my huevos, how big are yours? And it's very difficult to resist that and stay in your envelope and fight your fight, and I think that's what he wants people to do. And at 147 pounds, where I think he's a dominant puncher, then it's always going to mean something for him to be able to take the other guy's punch and, you know, shake his head and laugh about it and stuff like that, because it's very intimidating when you can bring what he brings behind it. But I think what became clear over the course of all those rounds tonight is that he's not a 160-pound fighter. He didn't hurt Felix when he landed big shots on him, except in the first round. And so I think if Mayorga is going to continue to fight that particular all-or-nothing style, and I don't see him changing, he better go back and fight at 147 or 154, where he can get something done with it, because I don't think he's going to intimidate many people at 160.
Trinidad takes 2 years off, comes back, punches are sharp, still punches hard, looking the best he's ever looked. Bernard Hopkins.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the best foot movement Felix has ever shown. That was the best side-to-side he's ever shown. He jabbed well when he wanted to. His right hand and left hand were both powerful and effective. I thought that it would be smart if he won this fight to take the money and fight Oscar De La Hoya. After watching what I watched tonight, I'm thinking, why bother with De La Hoya? Money he's got. Go fight Hopkins and try to get all those belts. The Felix Trinidad I saw tonight has a much better chance of beating Bernard Hopkins than the guy who fought him 3 years ago.
Speaking of De La Hoya, give us your thoughts on Bernard Hopkins' one-punch body shot stoppage in the 9th round.
Well, I think that's inevitability, basically. I mean, Oscar was fighting a bigger, stronger guy. His punches didn't hurt Hopkins. Hopkins' punches were hurting him. This thing about, whether he could have gotten up from the body shot, I give everybody who steps between the ropes the benefit of the doubt. Lots of fighters have told me that if you get caught perfectly on the liver, it takes your legs. Looked to me like he had no legs. But the bottom line is, so what if he got up? I mean, it isn't as if he was going to turn the fight around in the last 3 rounds. That was a fight that Bernard was going to win one way or the other.
Let's speak about a guy whose fight you've worked, and also you've worked side by side with, Roy Jones Jr. Do you think after his stoppage loss to Glenn Johnson that he should continue to fight?
No. He's been knocked out 2 times in a row, and in both instances he was unconscious before he hit the canvas. When you get knocked cold twice, and the second time by a guy who doesn't have a reputation as a big puncher, you're crazy if you go in and fight again. I mean, I think Roy's always been crazy in lots of ways, but if he goes in and fights again, I don't care against whom. If he fought me, it would be crazy at this point, because if you can't take a punch to the head, you don't belong in the ring, and right now I'm not sure he can take any punch to the head.
Speaking of being in the ring, Larry Donald is going to be fighting Evander Holyfield on a Don King card in Madison Square Garden. Do you think Holyfield should continue to fight?
I think it doesn't matter if he's fighting somebody like Larry Donald. I mean, that to me is a meaningless fight in the heavyweight division, and it's like filler for one of Don's big sandwiches of cards. But I think what Evander did against James Toney is all you need to know about what chance he has left to do anything significant in the heavyweight division, and Larry Donald has always been a one-note tune.
Last question. Do you miss working with George Foreman?
No.
Thank you for your time, sir.